Percentages with number chips, converting from fractions and decimals to percentages. This is the Easter version. So it just starts out with showing students how it evolves from decimal to fraction to percentage. And then they start on slide 3. So they're going to be moving these number chips. They have all the numbers that they need. This seems very simple. However, it just reinforces for the students how these match. So 12 hundredths, 12%, 59 hundredths, 59%. And then when you get to one whole, they can see that the only chip left would be 100%. So it just reinforces for the students. So it's very simple. It's a good slide to practice moving these chips. So you just click and hold on the edge. And while you're holding, then you can move it. Now, once they've done that, then it explains to the students that you can also convert from a decimal to a percentage by moving the decimal point 2 places to the right. So 62 hundredths would be 62%. Now, when you get to a number like this that has a whole number greater than 1, move the decimal 2 places to the right, you get 174% in this case. Now on this one, for 3/10, again, move your decimal point 2 places to the right, but since there's no number there, you have to put a 0, and it would not be 3%, it would be 30%. So a good teaching slide. When they get to slide 5, now they're going to be converting from decimals to percentages, so they have to be a little bit careful that they don't mix some of these up. For example, 7/10 would be 70%, moving the decimal point 2 places to the right. This one, 7/100 would be 7%. 23/100 would be 23%. 2 and 3/10 would be 230% if you move that decimal point 2 places to the right, and so on. So they have to be a little bit careful there. Now another teaching slide. So sometimes to convert a fraction to a percentage, you have to first change that fraction to a equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. And then you can convert it to a decimal and then to a percent. Okay, and then on the next slide, students are going to be changing these to equivalent fractions. So you want 100 in the denominator, so they're going to move 100 here. And you want to point out to them that they're going to be multiplying by 5. So if they multiply the denominator by 5, they're going to have to multiply the numerator by 5 also in order to create an equivalent fraction. So now we have 30 hundredths, which would be 30 hundredths as a decimal, which would be 30%. So changing that fraction to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. Same thing on the next slide, converting to a fraction with 100 in the denominator. Same thing on slide 9. Now slide 10 is another instructional slide. So sometimes you can't convert directly to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. You might need to simplify your fraction first. So in this case, if we divide numerator and denominator by 2, we get 9/20, which is easy to convert by multiplying numerator and denominator by 5. And then you can change it to a decimal and then to a percentage. So they're going to get practice doing that on slide 11. So they want to simplify. Here they can divide numerator and denominator by 3. That gives them 2/5. And then they can convert it to a fraction with 100 in the denominator by multiplying by 20. That would give them 40 hundredths, which would be 40 hundredths as a decimal, which would be 40%. So simplifying your fraction and then converting it to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. They're going to do the same thing on slide 12, and then an instructional slide again on 13. Sometimes you can't convert that fraction to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. So in that case, you'll have to use long division and divide. So they're going to get a little bit of practice with their long division. Here it just shows them how they did a long division. The answer, 625 thousandths. They had to move the decimal point 2 places to the right, and they get their solution of 62.5%. Slide 14, part of it's already done for them. So 8 goes into 10. And be a little bit careful with these smaller number chips. Make sure they're clicking on the edge. So 8 goes into 10 one time. If they multiply, they get 8. Subtract 2, bring down a 0. Now 8 goes into 20 two times. 8 times 2 is 16. Subtract, they get 4, bring down another 0. And then 8 goes into 40 evenly 5 times. Now they have 125 thousandths as their answer. They're going to move their decimal point 2 places to the right. And on this slide, they're going to be moving the decimal point. So they have to place that decimal point in the correct place in their solution. So if they move that decimal point 2 places to the right, it would be between the 2 and the 5. And again, they just click and hold, and they can move it into place. Now the final slide, they have to do all of the division. So 7/8, you can't convert it to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator, so they have to divide. 7 divided by 8. 8 goes into 70 8 times. 8 times 8 is 64. So they're just moving every one of these numbers. If they subtract, they get 6. Bring down a 0. 8 goes into 60 7 times. 8 times 7 is 56. So if your students have trouble with this one, you might want to do this together, or they can do it in partners. Again, subtract, they get 4, bring down another 0. 8 goes evenly into 40 5 times. So they get a solution of 875 thousandths, and they just need to, again, move that decimal point 2 places to the right. If they're having trouble doing this one with the long division, I also have a number chips lesson for long division where they can get a lot more practice doing this. So they move the decimal point between the 7 and the 5. And that's it. That's converting to percentages from fractions and decimals.